So the question is, how do you work with an imported assembly that was created in another CAD system? How do you assemble this in Fusion 360 most efficiently? This is a Vice assembly that's been seen on the forum a few times, and it's already somewhat organized. If your geometry comes in simply as a collection of bodies, you'll just simply have to do some organizing more or less manually by hand. In this case, it's already somewhat organized. We have some functional assemblies. We have the jaw here in the back, and we have another jaw assembly in the middle. Then we have one here. We have a base, etc., etc. But that's still not enough organization for me. I'm going to create another component. I call that base assembly. And I'm simply going to drag all the components that I want in this assembly into here. And the way I'm sorting this is by what parts are going to be stationary and what are going to be the moving parts, in this case the jaws. So that center jaw assembly also goes into this base assembly. So I'm basically left with three assemblies here, the left and the right jaw and the base assembly. So the next thing I'm going to do is I basically create rigid groups out of these assemblies. So now we have those assemblies rigid group. They're basically can be moved around. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a functional joint. I want a slider joint, and because this assembly came in already in the assembled location with all the pieces in place in location where they need to be, I want to use a as-built joint. But with the timeline turned off, as it is right now, I can't do that. And that's another caveat that you need to be aware of. When you import geometry, it always comes in with the timeline turned on. Turned off. And that also makes sorting these parts into different assemblies much easier because there's really no dependency between those components. And it also keeps things a little lighter in terms of data because not having a timeline just simply means you have less data. But in this case, I want to turn the timeline back on, so I enable capture design history. There it is on the bottom. And now I can create my as-built joint between components, between this component and that component. And I want a slider joint. So now I need to pick a linear edge here. And I'll pick this one. And there it is. And I'll do that again between these two here and pick another edge. Okay, so one could actually go ahead and apply sensible joint limits here, but I'm not going to do that for the purpose of this demo. So now I have these assembled. I could go ahead and ground one component, but I'm not quite done putting things into position. Because something I have not done yet is showing the origin. And I've, in my almost 30 years with CAD experience, I've noticed that the joint origin, if it's placed in a sensible location, can really help debugging a design. Once things start going wrong, if the joint origin is in a sensible location, it often very much helps. So I'm going to simply move this into position. When you select the move copy or invoke the move copy command, be aware of what you're selecting here. I also don't want the free move. I want the point-to-point move here. So I want to move components. I'll select one. I'm going to select my point number 1. It's almost not visible here, but that is this point. And I'm going to move it here to the joint origin. And that's okay. And now I can actually go ahead, double click on this and ground this component. Another caveat, you cannot ground an entire assembly. You can ground a component in an assembly, but not an entire assembly. It asks us here if we want to capture the position. Yes, we do, because we moved it to the joint origin. So that's where we want that position to be captured. Now we can turn the joint origin back off. We can move our sliders, and we have a perfectly assembled assembly.